Happy New Year, folks. I hope that you are all well refreshed and back in conversation with us. And that during the Christmas holiday, you did some of the suggestions that we had put out at AgriView, and that was the promotion of agritourism, visiting various areas in your community, making sure that you show the kids and you also get to understand what agricultural activity is there in the area that you are in, and what are the farmers up to. If you are still on holiday, as we release this, early January 2026, that's an assignment for you. Go out there and really promote agritourism. But folks, what we thought is important to start this year with is really a conversation about what are some of the important policy themes that South Africa's agriculture should be focusing on in 2026. Because yes, the agricultural sector grows on the effort of the farmers, the investments that agribusinesses and many others put in the sector, but the environment that we all operate in is shaped by the policies that the government gets to lay out. And you will remember that we had listed a couple of things when the current GNU government came into office in South Africa and said, in agriculture, if the GNU government can actually just focus on these aspects, we could see the South African agricultural sector growing and growing pretty much fast. And I would say some of those themes have not really changed that much. It's still really the things that I think as we start 2026, in various farmers' meetings, in various agribusinesses conversation, and in various analyst meetings, when one thinks about agriculture, these are aspects that we should try to elevate. The first of those, it will be for me still at the top, biosecurity. Plant health as well as animal health remain important in driving growth in South Africa. We are where we are, and I will repeat this because of the investments and the capability and the pace at which we were able to adopt technology in South Africa, biological as well as mechanical. And I think this time around, whereby there is a whole activist conversation about agrochemicals, there's a slow process of registering some of the agrochemicals and various seeds, cultivars that we need as South Africa. These are some of the things that we need to iron up. I think the Department of Agriculture should ensure that when we think about biosecurity, which is plant health and animal health, we have to link it with the aspect of Act 36 of 1947. That's the act that enables South Africa to actually be able to register all of the farm seeds, agrochemicals, fertilizers, and all of that. That act needs to be modernized in a way that will actually allow the agribusinesses to be able to move pretty much fast on the registration of some of these agrochemicals. Because think about it, our agricultural sector is thriving, particularly those that are in the crops, vegetables and fruits on the basis of the better genetics. And I think that the new genetic techniques and all of the investments that the others are putting in place to ensure that as a country we move faster on that is something that we must embrace. The same spirit that in South Africa we had in year 2000, 2001, where we were starting to plant genetically modified crops, and over time, we saw what they did in terms of improving our yields. We need to actually ensure that we have that same energy today on making sure that we register the new cultivars and we move pretty much fast. But I think as the farming community also, we need to know that there are some payments that we actually have to put in place, the levies, royalties, all kinds of payments that all of the farmers know, because ensuring that the breeding organizations in South Africa receive some support, receive some finances so that they can continue with that work is important. Yes, we depend in large part from the multinationals that bring all kinds of seeds into the country. But I think some of the organizations that are in South Africa, and they didn't tell me to say this, by the way, SACU and many others that are involved in the cultivar developments, those are the organizations we need to support and we need to engage, and we need to make sure that whatever financing that is necessary to keep them going in a range of work that they are doing, that must be supported. And I think that in our thinking about the whole biosecurity, that is one aspect. Because remember, biosecurity, I'm now lumping it with the registration of new agrochemicals, seed cultivars and everything, but also at the core, it is about plant health and animal health. On a plant health side, these are things that we need to do. But on the animal health, there's an ongoing conversation that as South Africa we've been having. In fact, one of our last episodes in 2025, we were talking about vaccination in South Africa against foot and mouth disease. And that's something that will still be continuing in South Africa even this year. And I think that on that aspect, it's really about an issue of ensuring that South Africa invests a lot on beefing up its capacity for vaccine development domestically and ensuring that the private sector is involved, but also then making sure that whatever new medicine that are needed that will be brought in to the country from elsewhere is registered and registers with pretty much speed. So all of those things are what I think are important, plant health and animal health, because those are the foundations of our productivity journey as the South African agricultural sector. So I would put my top two things on that, biosecurity and modernization of Act 36. The third point that I would put in and say for policy aspect we need to be thinking on a lot is really this work of expansion of South African agricultural export markets. We have markets now that are pretty much diverse. In Africa, it's our biggest market. Almost half of our products go there. The EU, 20%, Middle East and Asia, 25%, Americas and others. We continue to experience friction in the United States, but I think beyond the US issues, we really have to make sure that as South Africa, we move with speed on the export diversification. There's a lot of conversations that we had at the end of 2025 as a country, the leadership visiting Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and registering the South African interest. I think for 2025, we have to see trade deals being signed. And part of the signing of the trade deals in South Africa will also involve a conversation that none of us want to have, which is this idea that South Africa and the region must reform SACU, the Southern African Customs Union. Because now, if it's not reformed, as it stands, South Africa cannot just go to any country and sign a free trade agreement. We have to come back and make sure that the SACU members are with us on this viewpoint. We explore ideas and align interests, which is a good thing on stabilizing the region. But I do think that it needs a reform so that South Africa has flexibility to actually go out and sign trade deals and all of these things and make sure that SACU is in line with the modern times. But the other issue of SACU is because other members are just not following the rules. I mean, we know, for example, that at the end of 2025, Botswana suddenly decided to block the vegetable imports from the world and from South Africa specifically, because that's the country that exports a lot of vegetables to there. And this is not the first time. In 2021, both Namibia and Botswana blocked South African vegetables. And again, somewhere in 2023, and Namibia still has a ban on the South African products. But if we are all in the customs union, the rules of the game are that if it's not national security or bringing diseases, there's no need to be banning these products from entering that market. So rules are not being followed. We have limitations in negotiating certain trade agreements that we want. So these are tough conversations that we should be having as part of our rethinking of the trade platform as South Africa. But we also now, which is the fourth and an important thing, have to appreciate the fact that farmers experience a lot of problems in South Africa. The issue of crime remains a core issue, although some abuse the whole point and politicize it, but there is crime in the country, and rural crime remains one of the key issues, stock theft and general crime, and that needs to be addressed. And I think that the police needs to work with the Department of Agriculture in dealing with that aspect. So I would put that as my fourth policy or focus areas. Thereafter, I would say municipalities should be the fifth important area. Municipalities working with the Department of Agriculture, agribusinesses, various private sector on ensuring that they maintain the roads. Because if municipalities are not doing their part, then whatever the farmers are doing, we will continue to see this higher transaction cost and the friction, and that weighs on the competitiveness of the sector. And some people may think that this affects a lot of big farmers only, but I would say the big farmers and agribusinesses, they have capabilities to move commodities, although costly. But if you are a small farmer, somewhere in a rural area of Port St. John's, the road has not been maintained, you are trying to get your product to town, that makes things almost impossible. And I think that these are some of the things that the municipalities and the provincial department and many others need to be serious about and address this aspect. And I can almost anticipate now, as we start the year, it's raining in a number of regions, that we probably going to be hearing a lot of complaints from farmers about the bad roads. And I would say then, as my fifth or sixth point, is really this aspect of logistics at the ports, as well as a railway line. There's already a lot of work that we have done in the ports on increasing efficiencies although at the end of 2025, the table grape farmers and some of the stone fruits guys experienced some challenges, heavy winds and inefficiencies in Cape Town. But I think broadly, we need to make sure that we address those things. And I would say overall, which is my last and perhaps maybe a big point here, is still on land reform. We will do a whole separate episode on land reform, but I think it's important that the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development works effectively with the Department of Agriculture, and they release the land that they have. It's been almost a year when I was on AgriView talking about a 2.5 million hectares of land that is in the South African government hands. It has not been released to black farmers. And I think that if we are serious about inclusion and expansion and growth and job creation on this sector, that land must be released with title deeds. And you pair that with blended finance as well as bringing in organized agriculture and agribusinesses and get that going. So for me, those would be the focus and the policy areas I would say we need to be focusing on to ensure that we accelerate the growth in the South African agricultural sector. And folks, we are able to share these views with you and to continue AgriView this year with the support of many people, but the folks at the Nedbank are the ones that are really ensuring that we are able to deliver the high quality product to you in AgriView, and we are grateful for their support on this work. And thank you so very much for watching. And if you're watching this for the first time, make sure that you subscribe and you send the link to your friends.